Let's take a question on Anthills of the Savannah. And we can look at the question like Kangan is a time bomb. Kangan is a place where no one is safe. Kangan is a place where the citizens feel very uncomfortable. No one is safe in Kangan or in His Excellency's country. When His Excellency is brought to power, we are made to understand that there is high hope that there could be changes from the old civilian government which had been considered corrupt. But immediately His Excellency tastes power, his behavior changes, even among his own friends, whom he had brought to help advise him on how to rule the country. Therefore, when some of them, like Ikim, start questioning some of his policies, their lives are endangered. Firstly, His Excellency incarcerates a whole cabinet because of the failure for them to report who are those people in front of the presidential palace. There is a delegation from Amazon that has come to seek His Excellency's pardon and also to beg for aid that His Excellency and the Kangan government come to their aid because Amazon is suffering from one of the worst droughts that they have ever experienced. The fact that he only knows about the protest out of the presidential palace without any of his ministers telling him whom the people are, for what reason are they protesting, he treats them as being unreliable. And Professor Okon pleads, asks for forgiveness on his behalf and that of his colleagues. Secondly, His Excellency institutes public execution of petty thieves, whereas the real thieves are in courts sitting in air-conditioned offices. This becomes a daily occurrence as people troop to see thieves who are shot in public. Ikim considers this unreasonable, and he writes against it in the editorial on the National Gazette, which influences His Excellency's decision to ban capital punishment. Ikem becomes very critical of His Excellency's policies and the general corruption in Kangan. He believes that His Excellency is incompetent. He believes that he is surrounded by people who flatter him, people who are not ready to tell him the truth. And he even blames his friend Chris for playing the circus. He criticizes the general corruption in the public service, absenteeism, and all the like. And his criticisms do not augur well with His Excellency, and his life is endangered. Chris tells him to pipe down while the wind still blows, but Ikem does not listen. And therefore, in an interview that he had granted, in which he had mentioned that the head of state's head be cut off from the banknotes, is misinterpreted. And in the night, Ikem's house is stormed by the military, who brutalize him, torture him, and take him away. And next morning, he's discovered dead and brutally murdered, highlighting abuse of power, man's inhumanity, violence. Chris resigns from the cabinet as a minister and His Excellency threatens him with an investigation in his role during the failed referendum. Chris debunks the official version of the government, which claims that there had been a little scuffle and that Ikem had been killed accidentally to the BBC. This puts his life in danger. He receives help from friends who hide him in boys' quarters and move him from one place to another in Bassa, including the anonymous caller who calls Beatrice, ordering to move Chris from one place to another to safety, and finally tells her to get him out of Bassa because the place is becoming very hot. While Chris gets out of Bassa and chooses to go to Abazon, thinking that it will be a safe haven for him, he is killed by a reckless policeman. No one is safe in Kangan. When the students learn of Ikem's death, they go on strike, led by their president Emmanuel, and the strike puts the boy's life in danger. The military searches for him, and he is forced to flee Bassa to Abazon with Chris. The military storms the campus, beating and molesting students, especially girls, and taking many away in their Black Maria. Kangan also has a secret place that monitors those who are in the black book of the government and who oppose His Excellency openly, like Ikem. The traffic officer at Harpony Hotel is one of the spies. And the report that he gives about Ikem for visiting Abazon delegation confirms the insinuations made by Professor Okong that Ikem might be the instigator to the rebellion of the Abazon delegation. And that alone puts Ikem's life in danger. Abazon is a troublesome province in Kangan. Professor Okong even believes that the drought is just punishment from God for their constant rebellion. And they are the only ones who had refused to vote in favor of His Excellency's bid for life presidency. And therefore the president wants to treat and show them that he still holds the yam and the knife. He refuses the continuation of the digging of boreholes, thereby depriving the people of the precious liquid. He refuses to send aid to Abazon. Although the people live in dire condition of malnutrition and starvation, and the people have no other option but to make the delicate and desperate journey in search of survival to meet the sun and tell him they are sorry and get the much needed help which will make the people to survive. Unfortunately, His Excellency refuses to receive them on the pretext that he is on an important call and asks Professor Okong to do so on his behalf. Lastly, even His Excellency, who is very powerful, ends up being overthrown by a military coup d'etat. And for that reason, he is killed and shot and buried in a shallow grave. Therefore, with the above ideas that I have just raised, we can therefore realize that no one is safe in Kangan, not even His Excellency himself, because he believes that he is well protected, but the danger comes from those who are around him. And as the new president promises that life will become better for the people of Kangan.